Hello, my name is Alex from the Advent Label Applicator Company. I'm going to be demonstrating an Advent 300. We received two types of containers, a standard 1-gallon bleach type container, and then some of these longer, like probably 32-ounce containers. Before I go through the video, we already have it set up for the 1-gallon containers, but these 1-gallon containers were kind of damaged quite a bit in the box. They were caved in, and we just try to repressurize them with air and get them as concentric as possible. So there might be the occasional flat spot, and the machine's pretty tolerant of that, but I just wanted to point that out if they're not perfect. So here's the Advent 300. It's a pressure-sensitive labeler. It's designed to work with any type of round container, fiber, metal, plastic, from 1 inch in diameter to 12 inches in diameter. It does not require air. It doesn't require a sensor, so you can use both butt cut and die cut labels and clear label stocks. There's no special parts needed. And once you feed the machine through, which I'll show with the other container, you just simply turn it on. We already have our adjustments made, and in this case we have an open frame on the right hand side, so you just insert the container. You can see that label goes on just like that. See, the lineup is quite good, usually within a 1/16 of an inch. Now there is a little bit of a bubble here on the seam right here. I don't know if that's the containers being slightly damaged, but usually it's going to wipe it on very taut and going to be fairly good. These labels aren't printed also, which when you put ink on the label, it becomes more opaque and does a better job. But let me just go through these. Yeah, these are, you can see it's not going up and down, so it's not, these containers are still slightly damaged. It does a fairly good job. You just go ahead and insert. It automatically feeds the label, single label only. Just like that, you'll probably average about 20 containers a minute. Right. See, lineup's actually fairly good. It does a fairly nice job of these white blank labels on these actually pretty uneven containers. I do like to point out we do have two available options that you might be interested in on these 1-gallon bleach containers, and that's registration. A lot of people generally want their label to be registered, so when it's on the shelf, the center line of the label and the container are lined up, so they're all even. And one of them is a foot pedal option. We don't have it installed on this machine, but essentially what you would do is you would turn on the foot pedal, line up the container to a reference point, usually the overhead pressure arm, and then we have an adjustable timer that allows you to place that container anywhere along the surface of the bottle. And what you would go ahead and do is you would hit the foot pedal. I'll simulate that by just turning it on, and then it would put that label on. And just to show you, go ahead and line it up again to that reference point, and it should be fairly, usually within 1/4 of an inch, if not closer. And you can see pretty much dead on. So that's the foot pedal option. The neat thing about the foot pedal option is that you can use it with any type of container. So it doesn't have to have a handle, which brings us to the other option. We have a toggle switch right here that when the container is inserted and you turn on that toggle switch, the container will hit that switch and then it will feed the label. So there's no foot pedal to hit. So it's a little bit more automated, but it doesn't give you the flexibility of working with any type of container. It has to have something, a handle that will hit that switch. They're both right around the same price. I think $500 to $600 additional, but that is something that is available. Some people, what they'll try to do too is they'll just turn on the machine and they'll just try to put the container in the same location each and every time. You can see I tried to put the handle on about the 12 o'clock position. And you can be fairly accurate through practice, but it's not going to be as perfect as the other registration options. Okay, so that's us doing the 1 gallon containers. And now we'll go ahead and do a changeover. And while doing the changeover, we'll point out some of the neat features of the Advent 300. First of all, we have a powered rewind. It takes the waste material up automatically. You can see it's very, very easy to take off, just like a roll of toilet paper. So let me leave the frame here for a second. Throw that away. Okay. So we'll go ahead and put it back in. Very easy. Spring loaded, and it just falls into these little clips here. Right, then I'm going to release the overhead the brake arm. And then I'm just going to pull out the labels. Very, very simple. Take our mandrel, flexes out. Take off the guides. Then what I like to use is one of the guides as a way of just pushing the labels off. And then once you can get to the core, it's very easy to get to. Okay. And we're just going to put our new roll of labels on. Just slide those on. And you'll see here that we're limited. We're about 8 inches wide. You don't have to run both guides, so you could just keep one on because we have the strap here, the brake arm strap. So I'll just keep this one side on and just attach it. Oh, an important thing is when you put the core on, the label, obviously it has to have a 3-inch diameter core. You want to make sure it bites into the clips. Wide labels, usually you don't have to worry about that, but with narrower, like 3 inches or narrower, you do want to be aware of that. We do have clips there, spring-loaded clips that kind of bite into that core. See, it just falls into place. Take the tape off that. And then we'll just feed it through. It's a very simple label feed path. It goes underneath the brake arm. And we have little web guides, which are just they slide to accommodate. Just feeds in between these two rollers. Nothing to flip out of the way or anything. Just slides through. Usually you want to peel off about 24 inches of material. So probably about 3 labels here. We have our peel bar, which is where the label gets separated. That just pops out. Nice feature. Put the labels over it. Falls back into those 2 notches. You just want to make sure the sharp edge is facing up and towards these white rollers. Then what I like to do is make a point. And then just to show you, I'm going to roll this back a little bit. And this is where all the work is done in the machine. It's 2 pinch rollers, or a 4-inch drive roller and an 8-inch pinch roller. The way the machine works is put the labels through that. Then when it gets a signal, the solenoid pulls those 2 rollers together and then feeds it through the machine. If you have a little wrinkle, just take it out. And you can hit that again. You can hit it twice. And what it does is we designed it to automatically deflect towards the back of the machine. So it's very easy to grab. This is on a mechanical clutch so you can move it. Just want to get it to the slit. And wrap it around a couple times. Usually just about once. And then you want to reattach your brake arm spring. What the brake arm spring does is it prevents the labels from feeding out. Once it gets engaged and it goes forward, if you don't have a way of breaking the roll of labels, you'll get more than one label. So it's very important to reattach that. It's also perfectly adjustable with this cam, so you could put more tension on the roll of labels, more braking motion if need be. And then you can straighten things up. Just go ahead and turn it on. You can see it automatically makes itself taut. And then we can go ahead and feed a label out. And usually you want to feed a label or two out. That allows the labels to start tracking correctly. And then you just pull it forward. And this is a time to set our dwell, our timer, for the solenoid. For longer labels, you might want to have a time of about 5. What we're looking for is about 33, 25 to 50% of the label to be flagged out. And it should be consistent, as you can see there. So that should be perfect. So those are all your adjustments as far as label feeding. And once you get familiar with the machine, probably take about 3 minutes to do a label changeover. So now we'll go to the container. So first thing we're going to do is adjust the carriage for the diameter. I'll move this forward. So we have this knob right here, and it's threaded, the carriage assembly. And we're just going to move the container forward. So we want it supported by both sets of rollers and the container hovering about 1/4 of an inch away from the peel bar. It's not an exact adjustment, but just want it fairly close. Then you have your product guides. And it's just simple thumb locks. So what you could do is you could just look at the liner and then just see where your guides need to be. You don't have to run both sets of guides, but you certainly can. We lock this one out of the way. Okay. And actually, it doesn't really fit, so I'm just going to run it. Don't have to run it. I'll just keep my right hand there. And then our final adjustment, well, there's actually 2 more adjustments, but to do a quick changeover, we're just going to take our Allen wrench tool, which comes with the machine. We're going to adjust the overhead pressure arm. And that's for unfilled or light containers, but I recommend using it for any container that's full or empty. And what we do is we drop it down, we set the little gap on the stop about 1/4 of an inch, and then we tighten up the middle arm. Make sure it's good and taut. And the reason why we do that, you don't have to lift this up each and every time. It just falls into place, and that's it. Now our final adjustment is usually we're going to spread out the rollers. They're fully adjustable, which is really important for containers that have a recessed label area or a very wide label. So what I like to do is I take my Allen wrench tool and I just spread them out. And generally it's just want to match the webbing of the labels. And usually if you do that, it's fairly straightforward. And it's important to do it on the rear ones because these are the rollers that are actually pressing the label onto the surface of the container. So generally you want them fairly well spaced out because if there's a lot of distance, then you might get a bubble or a wrinkle. And we could certainly do that on the front rollers too. The front rollers are a little bit different. They're just press fit. Usually you take your smallest Allen wrench size and you just press them to the side and you can move them. You could just go ahead and do that. If you hear the chain skipping, don't worry, it's spring loaded and it's designed to skip under a lot of tension as a safety feature. So we can spread them out, but that's fairly good. You could have probably left them in the same location. The front rollers do help the container get around, but most of the work is going to be done in the rear. And what we're going to do is we're just going to insert. You can see the label goes on, a single label. I just keep my right hand here, which is great in a production environment because what you're going to be doing is dropping the container in, watching the label go on, and then taking it out. And you can see within a 1/16 of an inch, and because these containers weren't damaged, there's absolutely no bubbles or wrinkles. As perfect as can be. And you can use your single container if you need to make a fine adjustment. Let's say I wanted to move that label up a little bit. What I could go ahead and do is just take my guide, slide it over, and we'll go ahead, insert. There you go. We moved it up about 1/8 of an inch. Dead on. So let me go ahead and go through these. We have a little bit of a delay, so if you're a little bit off, you can make an adjustment, and then the label goes on. It's very straightforward on this container. That's it, single label. Even with that, this one being damaged, as you can see, still does a really fantastic job of getting that label on. So that's the Advent 300. Once again, no air required. Very, very simple adjustments. Single tool, and capable of working with a very wide label stocks and a variety of different diameters. If there's any questions, we could be reached at 800-846-7716. Thank you.